our man Scott Gulbransen,
Hey,
silver and black.
What's up?
Scotty, what's happening, baby? I got a question for you.
Yeah, man.
Are the Raiders closer to the team that scored 0 or the team that scored 63 like 4 days later?
It's a great question. I guess we'll find out on Christmas Day against the Chiefs because it's hard to know. I think the offense is what people expected. Okay, not 63 points, but they expected that offense to be more explosive. Of course, Jimmy Garoppolo early in the season didn't work out, so then they go to Aiden O'Connell. You expected that. You look at the talent on that roster and you say, okay, yeah, they should be able to put up 25, 30 points per game, somewhere up in there, an NFL average, right? But they couldn't do it, and it was down to 15 and a half even after Antonio Pierce took over, which was worse than when Josh McDaniels was there. So everybody was sort of talking about it. In fact, the game before that, the loss, Antonio Pierce said, look, the offense, it's going to click. It's going to click. Well, it finally did click. Now it's too late for a playoff run, but certainly it was good to see some progress there. And I think Antonio Pierce kept his name right in the hopper as far as being able to be in the running for the permanent head coaching job.
I was going to ask you about that because that's, what I've been thinking about, what they're going to do moving forward with this coaching spot. From everything that you're hearing, what's Antonio's chances and how is it? I think about the locker room. Like, do they, even though they haven't always won these games, are they still believing in what he's preaching?
Yeah, I mean, it appears so. They came out clearly after the Minnesota loss. They lose 3-0, embarrassing at home. Everything was terrible. Didn't seem prepared. Didn't seem like Pierce had a great plan going into that game. Then you get to the Charger game, and yes, the Chargers submitted to the Raiders' will after about 11 minutes in the game. But the Raiders executed it throughout the game, even later in the game as they kind of winded it down. They were able to do that. I think the locker room, they're advocating for the guy. I would expect that, though. Again, you come out of a crisis situation they had with Josh McDaniels. Of course, the players are going to advocate for Antonio Pierce. He's a player, so he's got that mentality. He understands what it's like to walk in their shoes, and that's important. And I think you should. Look, you're not going to hire a coach and a GM just based on what the players tell you, but they should have a voice. And I think he's been able to reach them. The question, though, is for me, and where I oscillate between the two guys, is Antonio Pierce doing a great job in spurts, but can he be consistent over the last 3 games to the point where he catapults himself to the point where it's like, well, boy, you got to give this guy a chance. He went 3-1 down the stretch or whatever it is. As of right now, he's 500 heading in. And I think it's a different situation. Coming in as an interim coach is different than starting a season, picking your staff, picking the players who are going to start, helping with the roster. So it's going to be a tough choice, but certainly there's a lot to like about him.
I feel like we could have the identical conversation, and you could just copy and paste everything you said about Antonio Pierce and just copy that over to Aiden O'Connell.
Yeah. I mean, look, I think Aiden O'Connell, you're going to see a rookie go up and down, right? Unless there's somebody like CJ Stroud who just happens to go out there and ball out and maybe be a rookie of the year candidate. But I think with Aiden O'Connell, what the Raiders have learned thus far, and again, he's got 3 more games to go, is that can the kid play at the NFL level? Absolutely. Is he the dynamic quarterback you need to become a championship caliber team? For me, the answer is still no, guys. I think he's a guy you want to keep and develop. And if I'm the Raiders, what I do is I go draft a quarterback as high as I can in the draft this year. I have that quarterback, Aiden O'Connell, and I go get some veteran out there to come in. And I say, all right, it's a wide open competition. The 3 of you go at it, see who wins out. And so the Raiders are in a good spot. They can go get another draft pick, a quarterback who's dynamic and use his legs a little more, and have Aiden O'Connell there too. And look, he can come in and win football games in the NFL. I think he's proven that even in this first year. And so that's a good thing for the Raiders, but you don't have to count on him to be your franchise quarterback. I think he just lacks that one piece, which is that functional mobility.
How do you think the season plays out for a guy like Devontae? I thought after that Vikings game, probably not going to see him anymore. But, he's a competitor, and they got, games. If you're talking about the spirit of competition, you got games against teams that are fighting for the playoffs or playoff seeding. And, you as somebody that just follows the league, you would hope that they will play against the Chiefs. You know what I mean? Just to see that. But what do you think? I mean, Devontae's in a tough spot. He's like in the prime of his career. He's got about 3 more games that don't matter. Why go out there and play outside of just being a competitor?
Well, I think partly too, he's such a leader in that locker room. I think he wants to go out and do that. He also likes Aiden O'Connell. I mean, he's very, very clear and I think direct about what he likes about him. And I think he likes the fact that he's helping him along, right? He's got the opportunity to do that. And I think that they can play spoiler, like you said. You look at the 3 teams remaining on their schedule. Of course, the Chiefs on Christmas Day, then the Colts, who are right in the middle of the playoff run, surprisingly, and the Broncos too, who've come out of nowhere as well. Now the loss hurt the Broncos, but they're still there. So the opportunity for the Raiders to play spoiler and end on a really positive note, and oh, by the way, help the guy that they all say they want to be their coach get the job, is to do just that. So I think Devontae Adams has some motivation. He looked miserable in that Minnesota game, but then on the sideline, he was dancing, doing fun stuff before the end of the game as they were racking up 63 points. So I think that, but I'm with you. I mean, I think if I'm Devontae Adams, the ball's in his court when it comes to the offseason. What do the Raiders do? And if I'm him and I like it and I believe in it and we're going somewhere, great. I stay on board because I think we can turn it around quickly. If not, then maybe he says, hey, look, loved being a Raider, always wanted to be a Raider, but I got to go somewhere because I only got a couple years left and I want to go win and you guys are too far away.
And that was actually my next question, Scotty. Like, how close is this team?
It's a good question. I think they're actually closer than many of us might have thought earlier in the year. And the reason I say that is the defense has come along nicely. Are they missing pieces? Yes. But Patrick Graham, the defensive coordinator, and Antonio Pierce, remember, who coached the linebackers before he was the interim coach, he and still does. They both have done a great job with this defense. And we've seen them. We've seen players like Divine Diablo come along. We've seen guys, I mean, Max Crosby, of course, is doing great. We've now seen Tyree Wilson, the high draft pick. They're using him as a combo. They're moving him inside and outside, and he's doing better in that role. So he might be a hybrid. So I think that the defense is a lot closer than we thought and getting better. And then on offense, really, look, if they can get a dynamic quarterback, improve the offensive line, go get a couple other guys for some depth there, and maybe improve that offensive line, then they're not that far away. I mean, look, if they can win 2 of the next 3 games, I said they'd win 7. They're right now at 6, right? So they could win 8, 9 games, possibly, probably 7 or 8, I would guess. And if they do that, then that's not that far. I mean, you're talking about 10 wins to get into the playoffs. This year it might be tough at 10 even, but I think you're close to being a 10-win team. So the quarterback makes all the difference in the world.
Let me ask you a macro Raiders question because I've always wondered this. I think during our live show, we had a Raider fan up there, Bronco fan, and I always tried to figure out who is the Raiders' main rival. They got a game going on against the Chiefs on Christmas Day. I always thought it was the Chiefs. I know there was a Broncos thing because Al Davis and Mike Shanahan and all this other stuff. And then the crazy thing about it, maybe this is just a fan thing. I don't know. But in the 49ers Chiefs Super Bowl, a gang of Raider fans is like, I want the Chiefs to win, period. So who is the Raiders' number 1 rival?
I would have to say that it's probably the Broncos. I think a lot of people would say the Chiefs, KC, but I will tell you this, the Chiefs have owned the Raiders so much over the last decade and a half that it's not much of a rivalry. But the Broncos, I mean, the Broncos too, you go back, both these teams, you go back to 1977, the AFC Championship game with the Phantom fumble, all kinds of things. So the history between the Broncos and the Raiders, and you talked about Al Davis and some of those things, is big. And I find that the Chiefs are a bigger rival right now because Raider fans hate them so much because they've won so much, right? It sort of kind of goes hand in hand. And the whole AFC West, because of the AFL history going back before the merger, they're all bitter rivals. I mean, and the Chargers too, but the Chargers haven't won that much, and the Chargers are the only team in the division to not win a Super Bowl, by the way. So I think that it's a close tie. I think it depends who you talk to, but I'd say the Broncos, based on recent performance, and the Raiders have owned the Broncos over the last few years as well. So I think Raider fans are enjoying that piece of it.
And boys do that merry-go-round again. So there'll be some flags flying on that next play. I promise you that. Don't do no damn merry-go-round on me.
Yeah, exactly.
You better line up and be in regular formation.
Stop it next time. Stop the damn merry-go-round then.
Yes, that's what I would have done.
I'll stop it.
Stop it legally.
Yeah,
I'll stop it. Hey, did you see? I know we got Scott here, but did you see people are starting to do what I said to do with the tush push?
Oh,
Swift got his ass.
Yeah, he got.
And that was AJ. That's what you do. You want to run that play, and somebody unnecessary is gonna get
well, enjoy it now because it's very obviously going away.
Like
that play is going away. It's not going to make it into the next season. Scott, we appreciate you, man. Enjoy the holiday. A hell of a game coming up with the Raiders and Chiefs. Obviously, one now it's the Chiefs desperately need. So we'll see where that takes us, man. But enjoy the holiday, and we'll see you when all the festivities are behind us.
You too, guys. I appreciate it as always.